Hello, I'm Frances from Homestead, and I have a tree and berry update for you. Now there's good news and bad news. I'll tell you the bad news first. I'm losing my cherry bushes. This one and this one have been taken out by the gophers. This one also has no root system. I keep hoping that it'll come back, but I'm afraid the roots have all been taken out. These two here are leaning horribly bad because their root system is nearly gone as well. I keep propping them up, hoping that they'll reestablish, but the one in the middle has been leaning since the end of winter, and it never did leaf. So I'm really worried that that one's completely gone, and that these two next to it might follow suit. They did leaf out and have blooms, but we had a really bad wind yesterday and both of them were falling over. As you can see, I'm fighting new mounds every day. This was yesterday's and this is today's. Apparently, these solar sonic repellents are useless. I know now that it is definitely gophers that have been wreaking havoc on my garden. Last week, between the greenhouse and the fence, we found a dead rodent. And I'm very familiar with gophers because I grew up with them in our yard. It was the bane of my mother's existence, and on her lawn anyway. And so, yes, it was a very large gopher. Why it was dead, I don't know, but it was definitely a gopher. So, no more questioning what rodent it is. We definitely have gophers. And I have purchased a gopher and mole repellent that is a type of granule that you put down the hole of the gopher. And I've been doing that for the past few days. So far, it just makes new holes in a different place every day. So it might be a deterrent from one location, but it's got a lot of garden that it can cover. So we'll see if we'll be able to chase it out before it gets to any of the berries. But sadly, the beautiful cherry bushes that my brother gave me are losing the battle. That's the bad news. The good news is almost all the berries have leafed out and they are looking beautiful. Before I show you the berries, let me just say that I got all of the weeds out of the beds, and I was able to get straw spread on all the beds. So you definitely can see the berries now amongst the weeds, and hopefully we can keep that down. The other thing is that I got the water system set up. I have drip set on all of the levels of the terrace with the berries, and I have shut-off valves on each level so that I'm able to hook up a hose to the gray water that we have set up here at the top of the garden. And then using gravity, I'm able to water each level and shut it off the one at the top that's been watered. And it's so nice. It's so nice to have just turn on the gray water every half hour to an hour. It's really wonderful. This system has worked out really well. Now let me show you the beautiful berries that are coming in. The blueberries are in blossom. They're so pretty. They're just at the end of their blossoming. They're like little teardrop blossoms. As a side note, my sage are blooming. They have beautiful purple flowers. This one blueberry that I've had for 3 years now got some damage at the top. And so I cut all the top dead branches off. But it's still alive and it's It's not blossoming this year, but it looks like it's going to come through, as long as the gophers don't get at it. Here we have the Triple Crown Thornless Blackberry. As I said, we have 4 of them. And so far, all 4 are doing well. Here's the Boysenberry. They're much taller than when I first showed them to you. They came to us, the Triple Crown and the Boysenberry came to us with leaves already on them, but they were very, very tiny. Now, all 4 are looking very lovely. The Tayberries, however, came much later. I got these ones from Burgess. They haven't leafed out yet, but I don't believe they're dead. There's still some wick, it seems, to the stems. The Salmonberries also took a long time to leaf out, and they were looking really dry, but they finally have started leafing, so I'm very hopeful for the Tayberries. They're a good month or so behind the others, so hopefully they'll still come through. The raspberries were very slow. And now, for the longest time, all we had was this thick stick sticking out of the ground. But they finally started bushing out. I'm very pleased with that. I really thought we weren't going to have raspberries. But all of them are finally getting a little bit of leaves. Even this one has just the start of a leaf at the bottom. So fortunately, all 4 raspberries are coming through. Now the strawberries, my 125 strawberries, not all of them have survived, but that's okay. We had a lot. And of course, they multiply well, so I'm sure I'll be able to fill it in. But they're getting blossoms. This is a good example of many of the ones with blossoms. They're looking really nice. And then here's the Salmonberry. Like the raspberry, they're just barely starting to leaf. But I'm very excited that both of them have finally come in. Now, not all of the grapes have yet leafed out, but I'm still hopeful because I was really worried about the raspberries. And they finally came in. So I'm still holding out hope for all of the grapes. As a side note, I planted my tomatillos just over here next to the grapes. So far, the red seedless still don't have any leaves yet, but one of the green seedless has leafed out. It's looking so good. The other one, not yet. But one of the Concord, oh, both of the Concord, ha. There we go. These Concord leaves are so pretty when they first come out. They're a light pink, so pretty. And this is my first view of seeing this one leafing out. Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful. This one started leafing out a couple weeks ago. And it's looking wonderful. The leaves are getting much bigger. But oh my goodness, so excited to see this one is making it too. So both the Concords have leafed out. Wow. So I'm still holding out hope for the ones that haven't leafed out yet, because every now and again, another one will pop through with some leaves and buds. So that's an update on my berries and grapevines. Now let's take a look at the fruit trees. So the first update for you about the trees is we have the water system set up. I have drip connected to all the trees, and we have a hose from the drip going here to this IBC tote full of rainwater. Now, we caught the rainwater from the house into the black tanks, and then we use a pump and hoses to pump the water into the tanks. And it works. It works. Now, a little bit of bad news. We had to start using water out of the tanks as early as April because March and April, unfortunately, were dry months. And as we were storing water, our hope was that we only had to use the stored water for 3 months, June, July, and August. Unfortunately, the water in our well started slowing down in April. And so with the trees and the berries, we definitely were making use of our rainwater catchment much earlier than we had planned. So one of the black tanks is already empty. So we're a little concerned that now here at the end of May, we've gone through half of our rainwater. And the other tank hopefully will last another 2 months, but that might give us another 4 to 6 weeks that we will not have water. So that's a little bit of bad news. Good news is all of the trees have leafed out. The trees are looking really lovely. Now, I did purchase some green plastic chicken fencing to add to the top of the cages. These ones we'd found on the property. They were already here. Whatever they were caging wasn't alive anymore, but they weren't very tall. And so I added this height here to help deter deer. That's the hope. So of course, where I'm watering all of the trees, there's a ring of weeds around them. I haven't yet been able to get the comfrey transplanted over here. My brother, as I said in a previous video, gave me some comfrey, and it's come back very nicely since the winter. And I'm going to be digging that up and putting it around all of the trees. Hopefully that will help deter the weeds, and it'll also be a wonderful mulch and nitrogen fixer for the trees. But that's a big project, and right now in the middle of spring I'm working with seeds and flowers, so I will get to the comfrey soon. Now this is the nectarine, and it leafed out just beautifully, and it even had some really pretty pink blossoms on it. I was really pleased with seeing the blossoms so early. Of course, we've picked them off. We're not going to let it worry about fruiting this first year or two. It needs to focus on its root system and growing its branches. But it is looking really full and lovely. This is the black gold cherry. It is really leafed out well. It also had a few blossoms that we picked off. This is my Rainier Cherry. It is leafing out very nicely. It was one of the first to leaf out after the nectarine. I was very pleased to see that it survived well. This is the sweet apple. It took a while. We were a little concerned about the apple and pear because they're a late bloomer, but they finally leafed out. This is a cider apple. It's leafing out as well, looking really nice. This is the pear. It was the last one to leaf out. It's my son's favorite fruit, and he was a little concerned, but it finally has started. It's definitely a late bloomer, but it's coming through. Getting some leaves, looking beautiful. Here's the pluot. It's been leafing for a while. It was one of the early ones. It is looking really nice. Now the elderberry was just a straight stick coming out of the ground for quite a while, but it is now bushing out, and it's looking really good. Now I have a few other trees here in the orchard called red alder. They came from a different nursery, and they were only a 1 year, I believe, tree. But we've placed them here amongst the fruit trees in the orchard because they're nitrogen fixers. We have several others in these little cages about the orchard. The idea with the red alder is to have a nitrogen fixer tree nearby fruit trees, and that helps them to grow much quicker and stronger and have the nutrients they need. And so that's what we've done, is we've placed the red alder trees about 10 feet of the fruit trees and have the fruit trees about 10 feet away all around them. And so far, almost all of the red alder have leafed out. There's a couple that haven't quite, but they have buds, so it looks like they're coming through. Now I have some other trees that are not fruit trees that I want to show you. This is a weeping willow, and I have 2 of them. Now these came in just sticks out of the ground, and now they have beautiful leaves. Willows are supposed to be very fast growing, so I'm very excited. I have always loved weeping willow trees. I just think they're so gorgeous. And a weeping willow standing by a pond is just picturesque. And when I had an opportunity to buy a weeping willow and get another one free, I couldn't resist. I've set them up here on the slope so that they will be very prominent and visible amongst the pine trees. This is a depression here that we hope someday to be a pond. Now, we did have an excavator come and give us an estimate, and he said that he could prepare the location for a pond for $1,000. That wasn't horrible. However, he said, but I wouldn't do it if I was you. You have no water source and it's all sand. And so without a stream or something to feed water into it continuously, it would just dry up because we have such a dry climate here in the summer. We may still risk it. We would love a pond, and it would be a wonderful source of water storage. Maybe when the willows get nice and tall, I'll get a pond in, so at least I can have the willows on the edge of a pond. I would just love that. In the meantime, the willows are doing beautifully. Unfortunately, I don't have a water system set up for them. So I'm hauling buckets, but willows are worth it to me. Now further up the slope here, we have a walnut. It is a beautiful walnut. I ordered it from Burnt Ridge Nursery here in Washington, over on the Puget Sound side of the Cascade Mountains. The alder, the walnut, some oaks, they all came together from that order. The walnut tree, I think, was 2 or 3 years old. And it was just a stick, didn't have any leaf buds or anything. And sadly, during the transport in the mail, the top 3 or 4 inches had bent. So I was a little concerned that we were going to lose some of it. But it has since leafed out and it looks beautiful. Now I want to tell you that I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks. I'm planning to travel with some of my family to Puerto Rico. 3 of my children and their families are going to be there. And I haven't been there for over 40 years, so I'm looking forward to seeing it again. It's such a beautiful place. However, I have put together a couple other videos, and when I get back, I will show you some pictures or video, whichever I do while I'm over there, of my travels, just because that's what I will be doing. But I've got an update on the greenhouse. So I hope you have that to look forward to until I'm back, and then I will show you all about my travels in Puerto Rico. I'm so grateful for you for joining me on this journey. And also after I'm back, we will do some more updates to show you the progress until we meet again.